Bless the Omnisire. They are found. Thank him. It is us who are tasked with their recovery. We must pass the holy test to prove our worth. The artifacts cannot simply be lifted from this place. First, they must be disconnected from where they have been abandoned. The rites of separation must be read. Appease them well. Our foes would take these blessed relics for themselves. They would corrupt them for their own blasphemous purposes. Do not let the heretics thieve them from us. The Omnisire is with us. Do not fail him, for he has never failed you.
Hello and welcome to JamHammer. In this video, we're going to see an Intercession Squad from the Dark Angels chapter take on a Hunter Clade Kill Team from the Forge World of Mars. These two teams will be taking part in a matched play game and will be undertaking mission 3.1 from the core book, Secure Tech. In this mission, there are 6 objectives dotted around the map. For 1 action point, an operative can perform disengage tech when nearby one of these objectives and score a victory point for their team. Once the tech has been disengaged, it can be picked up, allowing our operatives to move the objectives around the kill zone. They cannot be disengaged a second time, so you can only score 1 VP from them. However, they can still be captured after being disengaged in the usual sense, with the highest total APL of nearby operatives controlling an objective. The player with the most objectives under their control at the end of the battle will score an additional 2 victory points. The kill zone has been set up with 3 large buildings occupying the centre of the board. We've decided between us that the broken edges can be scaled, but the fenced areas are too tall to traverse. Surrounding these are a few Munitorum containers providing some obscuring cover and vantage points, plus some gantries and bits of light terrain in the form of ammo dumps and rubble. Our objectives are set up according to the mission brief, with 4 in the centre and 1 on either side of the table. So, with everything set up, we'll now roll off to see who will be attacking and who will be defending. I'm rolling the orange dice throughout this video, so score a 6 and win the roll off. I decide to be the attacker, meaning my partner, rolling the white dice, gets to pick her table edge and goes for the far one. First though, let's meet the teams. My partner has chosen a surprisingly aggressive kill team for a Dark Angels Intercession Squad, which, I'm sure, has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I don't own any ranged intercessors. 4 warriors armed with heavy bolt pistols and chainswords make up most of the squad, plus there's a grenadier armed with a frag and crack grenade. Leading them is a sergeant, also armed with a chainsword, as well as a devastating plasma pistol. The leader, grenadier, and the warrior with the pistol outstretched there in the front row are all equipped with purity seals, allowing them a free CP reroll each for this battle. These marines don't have a lot of ranged firepower though, so to help them survive long enough to bring their chainswords to bear, they're opting for the durable and hardy chapter tactics. Facing off against the brothers from the 1st Legion are my AdMech operatives. These are split pretty evenly between the 2 types of Scutari, and have plenty of specialists to help support them as they scrabble to recover their tech in the name of the Omnisire. We have a Ranger Surveyor here with an Omnispecs, and a Vanguard Dictat with an enhanced data tether. Then we have 3 gunners each bringing a unique weapon to the table. There's a sniper with the enormous transuronic arquebus, one with a face-melting plasma collider here, and a stunning arc rifle gunner as well. Then we have 4 Vanguard shock troopers who have each been equipped with enriched rounds to boost the damage output of their radium carbines and, hopefully, offset the durability of Marines. Finally, there's a single Ranger Marksman equipped with a servo skull to help perform mission actions, and, leading the Hunter Clade, is a Vanguard Alpha packing an arc maul and pistol. We arranged our TAC Ops decks according to our archetypes and have drawn our 3 secondary missions for the match ahead. The Intercessors are using the black cards and, unbeknownst to me at this time, have opted for TAC-OP 1 for their faction, Shock and Awe, as well as Damage Limitation and Protect Assets. My Hunters are using the orange cards, and I'll be going very recon heavy by trying to scope out vantage points, mark the Dark Angel Sergeant, and triangulate the kill zone. Starting with the Defender then, the Intercessors, and we're going to set up barricades. So, one going in the centre there near Objective 5, then the Hunters placing one to the right of Objective 3 in that ruined building, next one plugging the gap on that far table edge, and the final one going on the other side of Objective 3. Onto deployments, and the Dark Angels spread their forces evenly across their zone, with 2 going down the centre and 2 on either flank. The Hunter Clade sets up their units in a similar formation, with some Rangers in the middle behind a large ruin. The Alpha, Plasma Gunner and 2 Vanguards going down the left flank, and fire team of the Diktat, Arc Gunner and the last 2 Shock Troopers behind a container on the right. All of the Intercessors are keeping it sneaky by deploying with conceal orders, but my operatives can engage with impunity and are going in guns blazing with all engage orders. Final stage to set up now, and we pick and reveal our scouting options. The Intercession Squad are infiltrating, whilst the AdMech have decided to recon, and also spend their first command point on the Pursuer's ploy. They make a free dash move with those 3 Rangers in the centre, with the Surveyor moving up to the doorway on the left, and the Gunner and Marksman moving up into firing positions behind cover on the right. The Marines take the initiative now as we enter the first turning point. The Intercessors tick up from 2 CP to 3, and the Hunter Clade go back up to 2. No ploys from either side, but the Hunters activate their first Doctrina Imperative, the Aggressor Imperative, to boost their movement speed by 1 inch. Onto TAC Ops, and the Marines reveal Protect Assets. In turn, the AdMech reveal Triangulate and Vantage. First move, and the Intercessors activate one of their warriors in the centre to run up and capture Objective 4 for a victory point. They then spend their remaining AP on picking up that objective to, hopefully, scuttle it away from the clutching claws of the AdMech. The Hunter Clade activate their Ranger Marksman and, making the most of that imperative, move out from cover and scale the exposed side of that ruin. With their remaining AP, they're able to use the Servo Skull to recon this vantage point and score a VP for their team too. Over to the Intercessors, and they're using their Infiltrate option here to change the order on their Grenadier, who is moving out from cover and then dashing the extra distance to hide behind the black container on the left flank. Unfortunately, they are out of range with their weapons and can't quite reach objective number 1, so their activation ends here. The Hunters activate the leftmost Vanguard Shock Trooper behind the ammo dump and use 1 AP to triangulate the left table edge. From their position, they can spy the Intercessor Sergeant who, despite the conceal order, is not in cover. The Skitarii levels their Radium Carbine and fires off a salvo of 4 shots against the Marines' leader. An excellent result, with 2 hits and 2 crits going through. The Sergeant feels the impact of the round's striker's armour, but something strange occurs. No pain. He wasn't hit with rad bullets at all, but with tracking shots, and the AdMech reveal their final TAC Op, Mark Target. The Intercessor's leader has been marked, scoring the Hunter Clade another VP. On the right flank, the Intercessors activate another warrior and sprint across the kill zone using a move and dash to bring them in range of Objective 2. The warrior spends his last remaining AP on disengaging the tech and scores a second VP. Needing to reclaim some of their tech for themselves, the Hunters activate their Surveyor now and use that extra 1 inch of movement from their Imperative to get through the doorway and just about get within range to disengage tech from point 3 and score another VP. The Sergeant is not best pleased at having been marked, so, bellowing a war cry across the kill zone, activates next and spends 2 of his CP on vaulting up onto the ruin in front of him and charging headlong towards the hunter's line. The sniper calmly watches this brutish challenge as the sergeant clambers up onto the terrain and stands out in the open. Cursing these heretics for their lack of pure machine augmentation, the ranger calibrates their Baroque weapon and fires off a series of transuranic shells against the Intercessor's leader. The moving target proves difficult to hit though, and a shot goes wide. The rest find their mark, but strike nothing vital. The sergeant shrugs one of these off. 2 of the large caliber rounds bore through his power armor though, causing 10 damage and injuring the sergeant. Seeing their battle brothers struck by these devastating blows, another Intercessor warrior is activated next and sprints at full speed to the centre of the kill zone. He can't reach the cowardly abomination's lines, but does get to a piece of their precious tech, so spends a final AP on disengaging Objective 6 and seizing another VP for the Intercessors. Hearing the thunderous footplates of a Marine nearby, the arc gunner pops around the corner of the container on the right flank and opens fire on the warrior ahead. Clearly so appalled that these humans would dare to defile the Omnissiah's tech, most of the shots go wide. 1 strikes the Marine though, and he fails his defense roll. The Intercessors spend a CP on reroll, and it's a critical success. The Marine shrugs off the hit and remains unwounded. The last remaining warrior on the left flank is activated now to move and dash towards Objective 5, but can't quite make it and ducks into cover behind his team's barricade. Back over on the right flank, this Vanguard shock trooper, who is definitely a Scutari and nothing else, uses 1 AP to clamber up onto the Munitorum container and their other point to open fire at the exposed warrior who dashed out to seize Objective 6. 4 shots, and almost as if they don't have the blessed targeting arrays of their comrades, only 1 hits. The warrior rolls for defense and easily deflects this pitiful attempt. The dictac below moves out to the right flank and uses their remaining AP to triangulate this table edge. This means that 2 edges have been triangulated now, and the Hunter Clade scores another VP for completing the first stage of their tac op. The Alpha, not wanting to be outdone by the brave charge of the Intercessor's sergeant, rushes from the safety of cover and moves up to Objective 1. With their remaining action, they disengage the tech and score another VP for their team. The plasma gunner moves up to support and, from their position, can clearly see the sergeant on the gantry above. The caliver powers up and 4 shots come screaming in. Firing at the standard power level, 3 of these hit and 1 critically strikes. The sergeant is reduced to 2 dice rolls to try and save himself. And 1 fails. Even with the hardness and durability of the Dark Angels chapter, the Intercessor's leader takes a whopping 15 damage, is reduced to smouldering ichor, and is removed from the table. The remaining shock trooper on the right flank leans out of cover and unleashes their radium carbine at the exposed Marine holding Objective 6. 2 critical hits and a normal hit go through. This does proc rending, but owing to the Intercessor's durability and the enriched rounds of the carbine, they cancel each other out anywho, and the Marine is looking at 9 damage coming in. Rolling to a defense, and failed all 3. My partner decides to spend this Intercessor's Purity Seal on a reroll and makes a critical defense, negating 1 of these shots and taking a total of 6 damage, leaving the warrior with 8 wounds remaining. Last activation now, and it's the remaining shock trooper on the left flank who's just going to move up in support of the plasma gunner and Alpha, but with no targets remaining, ends their turn. So an absolutely action-packed first turning point. Nothing for secondaries yet for this team, and losing the sergeant could be a blessing in disguise, as he can no longer be farmed for extra VPs down the line. But with Objective 5 still up for grabs, and plenty more opportunity for tac ops, we go into the second turning point. Rolling off for initiative and the Intercessors win, meaning they will be going first again in this round. Each of the teams goes up from 2 to 3 CP. Then the Intercession Squad reveals their other 2 tac ops, damage limitation as well as shock and awe. No ploys from the Intercessors though, but the Hunters spend a CP on Martial Protocol and change their Doctrina Imperative over to Protector for the rest of the battle, hoping to really maximise their shooting potential with rerolls to hit. Apologies here that there was some technical difficulties and the footage from my overhead camera was corrupted. I managed to salvage some of the data, but unfortunately we've lost this angle for the first half of this turning point and the next. The Intercessors activate their warrior in the midfield and dash the remaining distance to Objective 5. He disengages the tech, scores a VP for team, and then the last AP is spent on moving back into cover. Cheeky Space Marine, he thinks he's safe ducking down behind his cover. Livid at this coward rushing out to meddle with their tech, the Hunters activate their Ranger Marksman on the vantage point to blast the warrior from above. Firing their galvanic rifle, they score 3 hits and a miss. However, this Ranger has remained stationary, so gets to re-roll that miss owing to Martial Protocol. And it's a hit. The Intercessor retained one of these saves automatically for being in cover, just about past another, but failed one as well, so 3 damage is allocated. Disgusted with these fanatics who dare to meddle in the affairs of the First Legion, the Grenadier on the left flank dashes out from cover and hooks a crack grenade straight at the Alpha. It's a good throw, with 2 hits and a crit coming in. The Alpha's armour manages to absorb some of the blast, but the crit and a hit go through for 9 damage and slaying the Hunter Clade's leader outright. In retaliation, the Surveyor moves out from near Objective 3 and uses their AP to move and dash up onto the highest vantage point. Yeah, take that, Intercessors. Seeing the opportunity to seize ground, the Intercessors activate their warrior and move up to the now unguarded Objective 3 and pick up the tech abandoned by the Surveyor. The warrior then props his heavy bolt pistol against the window and releases a rapid series of shots point blank at the Hunter's sniper. Somehow 2 of these miss their mark and a CP is spent on a reroll. And it's still a miss. 1 hit is a crit though, so P1 is procced, meaning only 2 attempts to save now. Only 1 save's made, and the crit goes through for 4 damage, which is enough to injure the gunner. The sniper is activated next for some real retribution. They swivel their colossal gun around on its stand and, with a thunderous cracking, fire 4 shots back at the warrior. Hitting on 3s now because of the injury, and it's still pretty nice. 2 hits and a crit. Get to re-roll that 1. And it's another crit. Absolutely devastating. That's 6 mortal wounds going through straight away. With only 2 wounds remaining now, and 2 saves available, the Intercessor doesn't even roll for defense, as there's no chance that he can survive such a brutal attack, and is instead removed from play. With this loss, the Intercession Squad won't be able to score for tactical precision. To hamper the Hunters as much as possible, the warrior on the right flank picks up the tech from Objective 2 and dashes away, dropping it behind the ruin there. Then he uses his remaining move to step out and sit on Objective 6 behind cover to weather the storm. The Dictat is activated next and given a conceal order. They spend an AP on granting the 100% verified genuine shock trooper an extra AP. Then the Dictat moves out and takes cover behind some rubble by the ruin. The last warrior is activated and he moves and dashes over to protect Objective 2, then sits out of sight, waiting for his prey. The cult shock trooper on the container uses his AP to recon the vantage point he's perched on to score a VP for the Hunters, then spends his extra AP to open fire on the warrior huddling by Objective 6. 2 hits and a crit, and I shouldn't have re-rolled here as this is clearly a Vanguard unit, but I failed it anyway. The warrior rolls for defense and 1 rad round finds its mark and he takes 3 damage. The other shock trooper on the right flank is given a conceal order, then moves and dashes into range of Objective 3 to recapture it for the Omnissiah. Over on the left flank, our rearguard shock trooper leaves cover to get a line of sight on the Grenadier. He lets loose with the radium carbine, scores a crit and a hit, but 2 misses. Gets to reroll one of these thanks to the Protector Imperative and turns it into a hit. The Grenadier rolls for defense, very well, deflects all of those shots with ease and escapes unscathed. The other shock trooper follows suit, moves out and round and dangerously close to that Grenadier. Shooting at the Intercessor with another radium carbine then, and very nice, the Vanguard gets 3 hits plus a crit. The Grenadier though is thoroughly infused with the blood of the Lion and deflects them all. Luckily, one round sneaks through and plinks him for 3 damage. Time to bring out the big guns. The Plasma Gunner steps out into this left flank conga line and opens up with the Caliver. Ooh, 2 crits and a hit. The Grenadier is reduced to 2 dice. Can he carry on tanking these hits? No, 2 fails. I thought he was done for, but with a glimmer of hope, he charges up his Purity Seal to try and survive with 1 wound remaining. But the Emperor forsakes him this day, and it's still a fail, and he's removed as a casualty. The Arc Gunner on the right is the last Hunter Clade operative to be activated, and he climbs up onto the container. From this vantage point, you can see the warrior in cover near Objective 6. He charges up his rifle and fires off a salvo. Not very well though, with 3 misses. He gets 1 reroll from the Imperative and turns it into a hit. The warrior keeps one of the saves due to being in cover, rolls the other, but fails it. Not wanting to be wounded though, as CP is spent on a reroll and it pays off with no damage taken. Another dynamic round of action then, and it's really close with only 2 victory points still separating our teams. The Intercessors managed to seize Objective 5 early on and score another VP, bringing them up to a total of 4. They did lose 2 operatives though, so weren't able to score a point for their secondary. With everything still to play for halfway through the game, we go into turning point 3. Rolling off for initiative, and the Intercessors win it again. They tick up to 2 CP and the Hunters go up to 3. Each team plays a ploy, bringing them back down, with the Intercessors looking to bring the pain with Assault Doctrine, and the Hunters enjoying their rerolls playing Martial Protocol again. The warrior sitting on Objective 6 is activated first and is given an engagement order. He shoots at the Ranger Marksman above first with his heavy bolt pistol. 4 shots fly in and all of them strike the Skitarii. Rolling for defense and luckily managed to make all of these, so just the one going through for 3 damage. The warrior then revs up his chainsword and charges straight at the Vanguard holding Objective 3. Now is the time for these assault behemoths to shine. 5 strikes coming in off that chainsword, and only 1 hits. Rolling for defense now, and this is looking good. Oh no! I completely fail mine too. What a disastrous melee. Even with the Assault Doctrine reroll, it's a fail, and it's just 1 attack going through. Though it is enough to injure the Shock Trooper, and the extra AP of the warrior takes control of Objective 3. The Ranger above is activated next, a little irritated at the bolt round lodged in their shoulder. They let fly with their galvanic rifle at the warrior visible below. 2 hits and a crit, meaning the weapon is AP 1 now. Get to reroll that fail too, as the Ranger didn't move. And another hit. Lovely. The Intercessor retains a save for being in cover, but only gets to roll 1 defense dice. And fails it. The last CP is spent on a reroll. Denied. Still a fail, and that's 9 damage punching through, and it's enough to slay the already wounded Marine. From out of nowhere, the Intercessor warrior, chainsword whirring and held high, comes running around the corner and charges straight into the hapless Dictat taking cover behind the ruin. It's a brutal assault, with 2 hits and 2 crits going through, and not a single successful hit from the Vanguard, who is thoroughly eviscerated. With his remaining AP, the warrior draws his pistol and squeezes off a volley at the arc gunner above. A nice result with 2 hits and a crit. Rolling for defense, and the ranger manages to nullify the 2 hits, but that crit explodes through the armor, causing enough damage to make them injured. An excellent start to the 3rd turning point for the Intercessors then, and the Hunters are a bit taken aback by the sudden charge into their lines. Time for vengeance. The arc gunner fires back at the warrior. At -1 to hit now, but not too much of an issue with 2 hits and a crit. Plus, get to re-roll that 1, and it's another crit. This warrior doesn't stand a chance. He rolls for defense and only manages to deflect 1. But thanks to the durable tactic, this Dark Angel resolutely soldiers on with 2 wounds remaining. He is stunned by the arc rifle though, and is also injured now. The Hunter operative is still in range though, and with no more intercessors to activate, the same warrior is chosen for an overwatch shot. No surprises where this is going. The warrior fires again at the arc gunner. Even with the reduced ballistic skill, he manages to crit and puts him down for good this time. Anticipating another overwatch attack from the other warrior in their midst, the Hunter Clade activate a few of their other operatives. The surveyor up on their vantage point spends both AP on reconning this and scores a VP for the team. One of the Vanguard shock troopers uses a move to get within range of the intercessor table edge and spends a second AP on triangulate, meaning another victory point scored. The plasma gunner with no visible targets takes this opportunity to move and dash to within 1 inch of objective 5 and takes control of it. Finally, the shock trooper keeping the warrior locked in combat makes a limited fallback move to take cover and claim objective 6. With that warrior now free, the intercessors take this opportunity to make another overwatch shot. He opts to target the sniper lurking in the back who is yet to be activated. 2 shots miss, but it doesn't matter as the other 2 are critical hits. Now at AP1, the sniper only has 2 rolls, but needing double 6s, there's no chance. They're obliterated by the heavy bolt rounds and removed from the table. A few more Hunter Clade operatives still to activate, and the shock trooper on the left flank is going to move up to this doorway and open fire on the now valid target, the warrior inside. 2 hits and a crit go through, but no opportunity for any rerolls here. And the warrior completely absorbs the hits with 2 critical saves and another save, meaning not a shred of damage is taken. Very nice. The Vanguard shock trooper, just look at the seal around his neck, it's clearly an AdMech symbol. Anyway, he stands his ground and shoots through the window at the warrior too. 2 hits and a crit. Could do some damage here. No, not again. The warrior just shrugs off every single shot and is completely free from harm. So, since they took control of Objective 3 away from the Hunter Clade, the Intercession Squad scores a VP here for shock and awe. A cataclysmic 3rd round then, with the Intercessors finding their feet and punching straight into the heart of the AdMech. The Intercessors were able to bring their VP total up to 5 right at the end there by seizing that objective from the Hunter Clade and holding their ground valiantly against the counterattack. The Hunters though were able to use their numerical superiority to outflank and reach the Intercessor lines to score for triangulate, as well as scale up and recon another vantage point. These 2 VPs bring their total up to 8, but with plenty of Skitarii sat on objectives, there's ample opportunity for the Intercessors to make up this difference. With the final 2 points for the primary still up for grabs as well, who will win as we go into the final round? At the start of the 4th turning point then, and the AdMech have managed to eventually seize the initiative. Better late than never. They go up to 3 CP, and the Intercessors go up again, very briefly, as the Hunter Clade spends 1 CP on Martial Protocol again, and the Intercessors are craftily playing and they shall know no fear. This means they get to ignore all those AP modifiers and injuries that I spent the last round stacking on them. Great, First activation and another CP being spent here on Force Motive Vitality to heal up that Vanguard holding Objective 6 and remove their injury. Rolling a d3 to see how many wounds are restored then, and it's a 6, so 3 wounds restored and they're back up to full health. 1 AP is being spent on shooting that warrior inside the ruin. Firing with full accuracy now, and it's a good job because just managed to scrape 2 hits and a crit. Do get a reroll here as this shock trooper is close to an objective, and another 3. Good stuff. Rolling for defense, and this guy's luck is slowly starting to run out with 2 hits going through for 6 damage. He's brought down to a single wound, but still lives. This would be enough to injure him, but with that ploy in effect, he can ignore this. To keep them safe, the Vanguard moves back out of harm's way and goes to take Objective 2. The warrior on the right fires off a blast from his pistol at the robed figure on the container, and thanks to that ploy, lands 3 hits. The Vanguard shock trooper manages to dodge 2 of these though, and only takes 3 damage from the salvo. Then, the warrior makes another sudden charge right back to where he came from near Objective 2, and straight into that poor shock trooper I just healed and retreated. Rolling, and we both do a pretty bad job. The Vanguard much more so. The last CP is spent to try and keep them alive, to no avail, and they're cut in twain, and the hunters lose the objective again. The shock trooper on the left in the intercessor deployment zone is activated now, and climbs up onto the vantage point of the container. From here, they have a clear line of sight to the warrior holding 2, so let loose with some irradiated rounds. 3 hits, but no reroll, and the warrior does a great job defending. A crit and a normal save mean only 1 round finds its mark, but with just 2 wounds remaining, the 3 damage from this is enough to fell the warrior. The last remaining intercessor, with his single wound, reaches down and picks up the tech. Then, uttering oaths to the Emperor, whirs up his chainsaw with his other hand, and with every last ounce of strength, hurtles full on into the plasma gunner. An amazing last stand as he now controls 2 objectives. Rolling for the fight, and the ranger does well, but owing to the depreciation effect of the imperative, has to reroll that crit into a regular success. The grievously wounded marine, his armour rent and broken, doesn't fare much better and only achieves 2 hits. He uses one of these to gouge a deep wound into the hunter's side, but his moves are slow and he overreaches his swing. The Skitarii seizes on this advantage and smashes his plasma gun straight through the cracked faceplate of the intercessor, bests him in close combat, and seizes control of those 2 objectives. With no intercessors remaining, the cultist hops down from the container and claims Objective 6. So Games Workshop upped the number of Rangers and Vanguard in a Hunter Clade Kill Team to 11, and you only get 10 per box, so thought this stand-in at least kind of resembled a Skitarii. So, with Objectives 3, 5 and 6 in their possession, the AdMech have control of more objectives than the wiped out Dark Angels, and earn the final 2 victory points for the primary mission. With a total of 10 VP versus the Intercessors 5 then, the Hunter Clade wins the game. Thank you so much for watching this video, I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking it, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the bell to be notified of new videos being released. This was such a fun game to play. It was so close throughout with only a 2-point lead in those first 2 turning points. I kind of regret blasting the sergeant off the table early on, as I could have accrued at least another VP by marking him again in subsequent turns, but thought his plasma pistol was just too dangerous to allow near my flimsy Skitarii. By the 3rd turning point, my partner really found her feet with how to use the intercessors to their best by charging them straight into my gun line and forcing me to make some tactical decisions that resulted in me losing objectives as well as several of my special weapons. This was our first time playing with units not from the Octarius set, and it was interesting to see how they played. For me, the Hunter Clade wasn't too dissimilar from the Veteran Guardsman, in that my strategy was the same. Whole ground, shoot 'em all. The Recon TAC Ops were amazing though, and meant that I could score points whilst avoiding the intercessors who were charging in to take the objectives. Speaking of which, the Marines were so different from what we were used to and able to soak up a lot of damage. Being able to take 3 action points per turn 2 was a game changer, as they could pop in, steal an objective, and then slink back into cover, or blast someone with a gun, charge, then slay another in combat. I really enjoyed the game and can't wait to play with both of these again soon. There'll be more Kill Team videos being released in the near future, so please do keep an eye out for new content coming soon to JamHammer. In the meantime, there are plenty of other videos available on the channel, including a few that are on screen now for you to click on. Thanks again for watching.